Hey there, welcome to Volume 6 of our British literature journey, Modern to Postmodern. From 1901 to the present, in this episode, we're stepping into a world that's shifting, cracking, and reinventing itself. The Victorian age is fading, and a new spirit, one full of doubt, discovery, and daring, is taking over. If you've ever felt confused by the term modernism, don't worry. We're about to break it down like friends over tea. You'll see how wars, science, psychology, and philosophy all collided to reshape literature forever. And yes, some of these themes have been asked in exam, so keep your ears sharp and your notes ready. Let's decode the beginning of something bold, modernism in British literature. Imagine this. We're standing at the edge of the Victorian world, and suddenly the ground begins to shift beneath our feet. The long, ornate sentences and moral certainty of the Victorians slowly start giving way to confusion, experimentation, and doubt. Why? Well, the world itself was changing fast and violently. With the growth of industries came a massive social and economic shift. Cities grew, people migrated, and urban life began influencing literary themes. Writers were no longer content with romanticizing nature or glorifying the past. They began to question everything. The stability of tradition? Shaken. The certainty of religion? Challenged. The world felt less like a cathedral and more like a maze. And this maze was deeply psychological. Sigmund Freud's theories started making waves. Writers now turned inward, exploring the unconscious mind. Add to that Charles Darwin's unsettling idea that humans were not divine creations but part of an evolutionary chain. Suddenly, literature wasn't just about plot, it was about perception, fragmentation, and internal struggle. Pause here and note this down. This is where symbolism and impressionism creep in. Writers like Joseph Conrad and Virginia Woolf weren't interested in what happened as much as how it was felt. The individual's inner life, the confusion, the anxiety, the alienation became central, and from here, the stream of consciousness technique began to rise. One thought led to another, like ripples in water, without a clear destination. Can you recall who shook up religious certainty and inspired existential doubt? Yes, Nietzsche. His philosophy of the death of God and the need for individual meaning deeply influenced this generation. Add to this the trauma of war, especially the First World War, and you begin to see why themes of alienation, absurdity, and disillusionment dominate this period. This also led to the emergence of the English war poets-writers who didn't glorify battle but mourned the loss of youth and innocence. Let's not forget the Irish voice here. The Irish literary revival, driven by writers like W.B. Yeats, wasn't just a cultural movement, it was a call for national identity. George Bernard Shaw added another layer, using his sharp wit to criticize social structures. And in drama, Irish nationalism came alive, blending politics with poetry. Here's something you probably didn't expect. Sci-fi was also taking shape. H.G. Wells, with his futuristic visions, imagined worlds far ahead of his time. Meanwhile, Joseph Conrad explored imperialism not through patriotic glory, but through the lens of moral ambiguity and personal alienation. Now here's the golden trick. Most of this intellectual shift didn't happen in isolation. Literary magazines, coffee house discussions, and intellectual circles all played a role in shaping this modernist spirit. By the early 20th century, all these threads, urbanization, psychology, existentialism, nationalism, and stylistic experimentation, began weaving together to create what we now call modernism. This was more than a shift in literature, it was a radical transformation of how writers saw the world and how they wrote about it. So there you have it. The roots of modernism aren't just about fancy styles or strained sentence structures. They're about a world in chaos and writers trying to make sense of it all. Before we move on, here's your reflection question. Which shift do you think had the biggest impact on modernist writing, urbanization, psychology, or war? Pause, think about it, and write it down. It'll help anchor this in your memory. Ready for the next? In our next session, we are going to take on Joseph Conrad. Let's keep going because the real magic is just getting started.